Hey everybody. Okay, so you have a somewhat easy week this week, or at least, I feel that it's an easier week. You don't have multiple things really due. Okay, so this week, if you haven't already, you should finish Fried Green Tomatoes at the Whistle Stop Cafe. Um, Now, as I had said when we first started talking about this, there's many storylines that happen in here. However, one of the most important storylines is about Iggy, and the other one is about Evelyn. Those are the real main characters. Okay, Harley, come here. My dog wants to go out, and I don't want to get up. So we follow the story of Iggy when she's first a little girl, and her brother Buddy dies. Okay, so that's where we're introduced to her, and that's where she first meets Ruth. Now, at this point, Ruth is a few years older than her. I mean, she obviously stays a few years older than her, but there's a distinction between Iggy being a child and Ruth is kind of a teenager. So there is a significant gap in age. Okay, and then Buddy dies, Ruth helps get her through, and Ruth eventually has to leave, and she's very torn up about this. And the idea is that she's torn up because she's actually very much in love with Ruth. And this is something that is implied and inferred. You have to really read between, I mean, there's not really much reading between the lines, but when Fannie Flagg wrote this book, it was not something that we vocalized about being a lesbian or being a gay male. Okay, this was not something that was talked about. It was very hush hush. It was very taboo, and that was that. Even if you liked, the same gender as you got married to the opposite gender because that's what was right, and nobody really said boo about it. However, Iggy is her own person, and she doesn't follow societal norms. Now, this is important because Fannie Flagg is using this book as a jumping off point for people to be able to do this. So that's, that was great for that era. Okay. And I believe, if I can remember, I believe this was back in the 50s. Like it was set in the 50s or set in the 30s, something like that. So we then have Evelyn. We're going to jump over to Evelyn Couch. Okay. She's married to Ed. They have 2 kids. Ed does not see her as attractive. She doesn't see her own self as attractive. She is the complete opposite of what Iggy is. Iggy is somebody who is fully confident in herself. She doesn't give any fucks about what anybody thinks, but Evelyn cares deeply what people think of her. She constantly is like, oh my God, that person's looking at me and thinks I'm a cow. Oh my gosh, that person's looking at me and wondering why I wore this sweater. It's constant for her. She never is in a state of just, she's always worried about something or someone. Okay, now if we remember, sorry, it's past my bedtime. Just kidding. It's really not. Today was a bad day. So Evelyn is just not a strong mental person. Okay, Ed was having an affair with a lady at work, and it has torn her up, and because of that, she decided to take these women's classes where she's told to, look at her vagina with a mirror in front of all these women. Now, there's 2 separate parts to that. She has to look at her own vagina, and the second part is that she has to do it in front of other women. Okay, so she 100%, because of how mentally weak she is, she will never do this in front of other women. She never would have, even if she was, a little bit stronger. She wouldn't have done it. It's not her character. But the other part of it is that she's afraid of her own vagina. She's afraid of her sexuality, and that's why Ed cheated on her. Okay, because she is not, she's so hell-bent on following the strict guidelines set by society of what it means to be a wife, that it means to be dutiful and give kids, but it doesn't mean to have sex for pleasure. It just means you're supposed to do it for, reproductive purposes. So she doesn't see herself as a being deserving of pleasure, which is something that they don't talk about so much with Iggy and Ruth. However, her character is so much more relaxed that you get that idea from them, that they are, not necessarily sexually active, but they're much more okay with what they are and who they are. and they're more confident than Evelyn could ever be. So that's why it's important, Iggy stays the same. Her character arc is the same. She doesn't really have an arc, whereas Evelyn starts out really, flat, flat, flat. And then all of a sudden, as she hears all the stories about Iggy, she begins her ascent to, her confidence. At the end of the book, she's a Mary Kay rep. She's doing very well for herself. She experienced her first orgasm. So, and that's a huge thing because it tells us that she didn't see herself as a sexual creature. Her duty was to have sex with her husband because she was the wife, and that was the duty of a wife. But it was never, what's the phrase that's used today? Ladies come first. So that was something that was not, it was this alien concept to her. Okay, so then we also have the storyline of who killed Frank. Frank was Ruth's husband. Okay, so when Ruth went away to go get married to Frank Bennett, Iggy was very upset. She stayed down at the at Eva Bates's club. I suddenly can't remember the name of the club. Oh my gosh. Whatever. She stayed there for weeks drinking. She wouldn't come home. She didn't want to, but eventually she did. She received a letter from Ruth, and it was a Bible passage. She asked her mom, "Mama, what does this mean?" And it meant she wants you to go get her. So she left. She took Big George and I want to say Curtis. No. I don't remember his name now. It's been a bit. It's been a minute. Anyway, so she definitely brings Big George, and that comes into play later, to go get Ruth. So they get there and they find out. Now, if you've watched the movie, they already found out that she was pregnant. However, she doesn't find out she's pregnant until she gets back to Iggy's house. So when she goes to pick up Ruth, Frank is there and says, "What is all this commotion? What's going on? Why? Whoa, whoa, whoa. Why is there a black man in my house?" He's very upset by this because back then segregation was huge. This was the era of Jim Crow. This was the bigger era of the KKK. And this is all too much. Women don't leave their husbands. So that's something that's taboo. The fact that Big George is basically best friends with Iggy is another taboo thought, but it's not as addressed as it needed to be, because I think it would have taken away from the storyline. But anyway, so they bring her home. Frank pushes her. He's like, "No," and "No, you're not leaving." And she's like, "Yeah, F you, I am." Iggy threatens to kill him. Big George threatens to kill him. And off they go with Ruth. They go back to Whistle Stop, Alabama. Everybody's happy. Then one day, after Ruth gives birth to the baby, Buddy Jr., Frank comes, sniffing around, and he tries to take the baby. And it's Artis, Sipsey's grandson, Big George's son, one of the sons, okay? And so it's Artis and Sipsey are watching the baby. And Ruth and Iggy were away at a show, if I remember correctly. And when Frank came, he was drunk, and he took the baby. He shoved Sipsey, and he told Artis to go away, and he did, and took the baby. And by the time he got to the truck, Smokey Lonesome shows up and is like, "Hey, you can't take Miss Ruth's baby." And then Sipsey's like, "No way, I'm gonna let somebody take Miss Ruth's baby." Because that's how I imagine she talks, because honestly, she's adorable. If you haven't seen the movie, you have to see her, because they definitely picked the perfect person to portray her. So if I could record it, I would, but I don't know how to record it to be able to upload it. So anyway, so Sipsey comes up behind him, and we don't find this till the very end of the book, but they say she's been wielding 5-pound pans in both hands ever since she was 5 or 6. She was very young. So no one knew that she had this, this strength in her. And she took that frying pan, whacked him upside the head, and he died. She then told Artis to go wake his father, which he did. He ran and did that, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, my grandma done kill a white man." Whew! So he tells Big George, "You need to come because grandma needs you." So Big George goes, and they decide to take the body, cut it up, and put it into the barbecue so that no one will ever find it. And in the meantime, while that's, stewing, Big George drives the truck into the river. Okay. Now, what they don't mention until, later in the book is that Sipsey cut off Frank Bennett's head because she continued to say, and she said it in the beginning, that if you don't, that the spirits are going to come back and haunt you. You have to cut them off and plant them in the garden. Okay. And that's the only way to keep the evil spirits of them away. So that's what she did. And she had buried it. And at the end of the book, it says, has anybody been looking for a man with a glass eye? And that's how we know that it was Frank Bennett's head. Anyway, there's some other parts that are interesting to the book, but they don't really pertain to the plot. It does feel like there's multiple plots happening because of the multiple storylines. So we have the Ruth and Iggy storyline. We have the Iggy and Big George storyline. We have Evelyn Couch's storyline. Ninny just is a participant of Evelyn's storyline. She's not really in it. Sorry, I thought my kid woke up. So if we also remember, Big George and Iggy end up having to go to court because they're being investigated for the murder of Frank Bennett. But the priest who Iggy has been tormenting for years, sending alcoholics and people looking for, prostitutes to, he comes in and says, well, Miss Iggy is a nun at our church, and she was helping us with our 3-day revival. And so was Big George. He's been helping us too. And I keep the dates of everything here and blah, 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 blah. But then it turns out that the judge notices that the Bible that he swore on was not actually a Bible. It was a book. And it's very comical because the judge even says he deserved it. Okay, so it's, it's all interwoven into one another. It's a very well-written story. I know that it jumps around a lot, so that kind of confuses people when reading it. I know that my first time reading it, I was a bit confused, but I do think it's a well-done story. So anyway, oh, thanks. Hocus Pocus is on. I know it's not Halloween, but screw it, right? So that's fried green tomatoes at the Whistle Stop Cafe in a nutshell. You have your test on it on Thursday. I will be sending you a link Thursday morning to take the test. You will have all day to take the test. Your scores will be emailed to me, and then I will upload them to Moodle. Okay, so that's for Thursday. Now for tomorrow. Tomorrow is Tuesday, or today is Tuesday, whenever you guys are viewing this. Sorry, it's Monday night at 10 o'clock. Just so we know, I'm trying to pre-record this. So your first rough draft is due for your research paper, okay? You chose your topic. You sent me your thesis. You sent an outline. So you essentially already have the tools to do this research paper. Now, do I know that most of the time we don't follow the outline we write? Of course I know that. I teach the class. Of course I know these things. Use it as a guide. Don't feel constrained to it. Don't feel like you have to follow what you wrote. It's okay if you don't. But use it as a guide to at least help you. Even if you just write a few paragraphs and then go back and rearrange things, that's fine. I won't know the difference. You are writing 3 pages. Okay, now, if you bear with me. Oops, come on, share whiteboard. Okay, hold on. We're going to go over the requirements one more time. Okay, 3 full pages. They are double spaced. Okay, you need your heading, which has your name, date, class, okay, and professor. That's me. Oh, hold on. Okay, then your header, which is in your upper right-hand corner. Okay, upper right-hand corner includes, it's the last name and the page number. Okay, so those are the things you have to remember for sure. Also, size 12, Times New Roman. Okay, now if for whatever reason you are unable to upload to Moodle, okay, if you choose to write it as a Google Doc, when you share it with me in my email, make it editable, okay? Don't just share a link that I can only view it, because then I got to do extra work, and that's just annoying. It's annoying for both of us, really. If I can edit it, I can make comments right on your paper. If you don't allow me to edit the paper, then I have to copy it to a Word doc and send you back a Word document. So if you don't have Word, then we're kind of, you know, a rock and a hard place on that. So just keep that in mind. Oh my gosh, what is happening? So much shenanigans going on with my phone. So keep those things in mind. Also, you are writing in third person point of view. That means they, them, people, persons, or you can always use their name, okay? You are not to write in first person or second person. If you were to write in first or second, which is I, me, we, you, us, okay? That implies that it is an opinion-based paper, and this is a research-based paper. So remember to include quotes from the actual text and your outside source. Those are the research that you're putting into the paper to show that you know your shit, okay? That is how you're going to prove your point, is by using the research. Other than that, I think that might be it. Third person, organization, tone, writing. Okay, yeah. All right. So make sure that this is all part of your paper. All right. 3 full pages. All right. That's it. 3 full pages. Then I'm also going to send a link. Okay. And it will be to a Google Sheet. You are to sign up for a conference, a one-on-one conference to go over your paper. So you can sign up for one if you don't have a paper. I mean, whatever. But once you wrote your paper, we'll do a conference, and it will be about like 15 minutes. It won't be long. And we'll just go over your paper so that you have, you know, ideas on how you can expand on it to reach the requirement of 5 to 7. Okay. So I know that was a lot of information that I just threw out at you. I do try to make these short. I know this wasn't, so I apologize, but I thank you for watching. Other than that, I will talk to you guys on Thursday when I send you the link for your test. And I hope you guys have a good night, a good day, whatever time you're watching this. And I'll talk to you guys later.